Yo, what's up, everybody? Marcus McDuffie here, and this is the Live Love Live podcast. Today, I want to take a little step away from some of the more like technical stuff when it comes to like fitness, straight, or nutrition, and really talk about one of the things that's more important when it comes to actually having success with the workout program, and that is the way that we look at what we've done, right? So for us, like at Ion, we train a lot of people that are 40 plus, and they've all kind of had like some type of fitness experience before, right? And for some of them, it was absolutely amazing, and for others, it wasn't, right? They struggled before, they got hurt previously, they tried really hard and they just weren't successful because of whatever else it may have been, and because of that reason, it's really hard for a lot of them to get into fitness again. And it stays with them, right? I've had tons of people who said, like, hey, like, I was thinking about this thing for months and months and months, and I just didn't want to sign up and, not go and waste my money or not, try and like not actually see any results because that's what happened last time. So today we are going to teach you how to take those failures, quote unquote failures, and turn them into superpower catalyst, right? Like, how do I take this thing that I wasn't successful at before and use it to absolutely supercharge what I'm going into next? Um, and the reason I bring this up, right, is because we finished our foolproof fat loss program 6 weeks, and the group that won, for some of them, this is their fourth time doing it, right? And I remember one of the ladies who had one of the best performances of everybody. She comes to me before, and I'm like, "Hey, like, you should do this." And she says, "You know what, Marcus? Like, I don't know. Like, I did the last two times, and I didn't really do that well. I don't know." And I just looked at her and said, "Cool. That means that you are primed to be successful this time around. Go ahead, sign up." Right. And then she did it. And then she had one of the best performances, and she's happy and she's proud of herself. But what if she took that time and instead she said, well, I wasn't successful last time. So you know what? I'm not going to do it. Right. So we'll kind of jump into the first one, which is what not to do. Right. And I think the first thing that we need to understand is that there's actually no such thing as failure, right? Like, we define failure, what it is, right? Like, there's no one else who kind of defines that. We are the ones that define what a failure is. So that means at the same time, we can also turn that and say, hey, this wasn't failure. This is a learning lesson, right? So what we don't want to ever do is classify anything that happens in our life as a failure. All of these things happen for a reason, right? So stop, pause real quick. Feel free to pause this episode and look at, just like, take a little step back and look at all the things that you've looked at as a failure in your life. Um, are they really failures, right? Like, think about something that happened 5 years ago that you looked at as a failure. Would you be the person who you are today without that thing that happened 5 years ago? Yes, no, maybe, right? But I'm going to probably guess no. That thing that you classified as a failure and felt like you failed that many years ago is the reason who you are today. And that's why it's not a failure, right? And I think, we like create that circumstance, right? So the first thing is, you never want to look at anything that happens in your life as a failure. It all has a reason. The second thing, and one of my like first business coaches taught this to me, and it was a complete game changer, is positive reframing, right? So positive reframing is looking at every single thing that happens in my life as a lesson, right? We used to say, that's not a failure, that's tuition, right? That's not a failure, that's tuition. You had to go through this thing in order to be successful or to reach that new height or to get to where you needed to go, right? And without you going through this failure, you never would have got there, right? So positive reframing and WWLA, right? WWLA is what, why, lesson, apply, right? So let's say, for example, that you went to the gym 5 years ago and you weren't as successful as you wanted to be. Once again, you set the what success and what failure is, right? So, but let's just say you set the goal of, I wanted to be able to do a pull up or, lose 10 pounds, and I didn't, right? And because of that, I feel like I failed. Or even I want to go to the gym 3 times a week and I wasn't able to consistently. So I feel like I failed. And what we need to do is we need to step back and we need to say, what happened objectively, right? The goal was to do, pull up or to lose that 10 pounds. And I didn't get there, right? Not failure. It has no like bearing on who you are as a person, right? And I think that's such a big thing because you were not able to do something that you set the standard for, or even if somebody else said it, right? Just because you were not able to get there, it really says nothing about you or your character or who you are as a person, right? So it's time to first let that go and just look at this thing, like I said, objectively. What? The second one is why, right? Things don't happen for no reason. So when we can step back and say, we'll just make it easy. Like, hey, like, when I look at it, I wasn't as like, on top of it when it came to some of my eating and my meals, or hey, like I wasn't great at planning in my workouts ahead of time, so a lot of times like work just got in the way. Or hey, like I had kids, and because I had kids that were young, like I wasn't able to really focus on me as much as I really wanted to, and I should have probably changed my standard of what success was instead of staying there and valuing or looking at it as a failure, right? So we need to take that step back. So take that time and evaluate, okay, cool. What happened and why did it happen, right? Most people just look at the what happened and they'll say, I didn't lose that 10 pounds. You know what? So I'm a failure and I'll never be able to lose that 10. Or I'm just not disciplined enough, or I don't work hard enough, right? And they become indictments of character. And that's one of the worst things you could do, is because that stays with you and that sticks with you. What you want to do is you want to just look at it objectively. What? Why? All right. The L is the next one. After you do the kind of heavy work, which is the why, right? The L is then a little bit easier, which is, what is the lesson I learned in there, right? Um, I learned that I probably have to do meal prep this time around. Even if I don't really like to meal prep, I know I have this goal and I know I probably need to meal prep. Hey, I was doing 2 days a week and, I couldn't really make a third day in the gym. So if I want to do that pull up, I need to buy a pull up bar at home, right? Whatever it may be, it doesn't matter. But it's all about learning that lesson. We need to step back and look at this thing. Stop being afraid to look at your quote unquote, again, I will always quote unquote it because I don't think it's a failure. I think it's tuition, right? You need to look at your failures and look at them and don't be afraid and don't run from them. There is so much power in every time that you failed, right? It's not called failing forward for no reason, right? Um, so you need to look at them and say, all right, I've looked at what it was. I looked at why. So, what is the lesson that I can learn in this, right? What is the takeaway that I can walk out of this with? Even in the shittiest of situations, or some that really hurt you deep down inside, right? And caused a lot of pain. And even if it stayed with you for a while, there's always a lesson to be learned in it, you know? And if we can say, all right, cool, like, need to buy that pull-up bar. I need to make sure I put my workouts in my calendar so work doesn't, cover them up. I need to make sure that, I'm meal prepping ahead of time. Hey, even if it was just like my kids are older now and the lesson was that I should have just lowered what was realistic for me once I realized that I was really trying hard and I couldn't do it. Right. And that's also something that may come up. You may just realize that, hey, at that point in my life, I was really trying hard and I just couldn't. Right. That's a real thing. Especially when you're like a busy parent, you work a busy job, like you have like you're taking care of your own parents. There's all these things that kind of come up and it makes sense. Right. So make sure that you're the one setting the goal. The last one is the A, apply. All right. And this one, like, I've done this before. I will literally take one of these little yellow legal pads for those of you watching the video, and I'll write on it, and I will take myself through this process, and we just need to apply it forward, right? So for me, I'll actually give you an example. In college, I thought that I was a failure, you know. I went to Occidental, like pretty prestigious school, and I used to show up to class every day. And I was like an all A student in high school, and I showed up to class every day, and I felt stupid. I'd feel stupid, and I just took that, and I would get like a D. I was on academic probation my like sophomore year, and I felt dumb. And I didn't look at it with this WWLA mindset. I just looked at it and I took it how most people do, into heart. And I was like, oh yeah, Marcus, like you're just dumb. You're not disciplined. But now when I look back at it, I can look at what happened. I can say, hey, I didn't do as well as I wanted to in college. Why? Because I was in this brand new environment and with all these people that like didn't really relate to me, and I was stressed out and there was all this competition and I didn't really have great support systems. And I was also playing a sport, right? And it's like, whoa, when we put all that in there, the why is a lot different, and it takes the emotion out of it. It takes the connection to self out of it, and it allows you to look at the L, which is the lesson, which is, hey, this is what happened. I could have done this better, could have done that better. And then the A, like I said, roundabout Marcus and all his tangents and shit, is the A of apply, right? Which is cool. This is the lesson I learned. Now, how do I start to put this into my day to day life, right? The A is, the hardest part of all of them. The W is going to take the most groundwork, or sorry, the Y is going to take the most groundwork. The lesson, kind of becomes clear after you look at the Y. And the why is also the hardest because you need to separate the self and the emotions from that situation. And the A, once you opened everything up, right? The A is where you can really find the beauty, right? So what I'm challenging all of you that are listening to that is, whether it be fitness, business, whatever it may be, relationships, just life in general, at work, whatever else it could be, is to strip the emotions, strip the like what it means about you away, and look at those failures that you had in 2021, 2022, whatever else it may be, and step back and use them. There are so many beautiful, beautiful A applies waiting, right? If you took 30 minutes and just dug deep inside, there are so many A's waiting for you that can completely change your fitness, your life, whatever else it may be, but you're afraid. And that's okay. It's okay to be afraid, right? But if you truly want to if you truly want to live a healthier life, if you truly want to feel confident in your body, if you truly want to feel strong, if you truly want to like feel better and take over and conquer whatever area it may be, you need to do the work of WWL, so you can get that beautiful A apply at the end of it. And it just goes back once again to fourth time's the charm, right? The lady told me that third one, and at the end I was talking to her, right? And I was like, "Hey, yeah, you remember when you said you shouldn't do it? Remember when you told me, oh, Marcus, like I didn't do great on the last one, and this is my third time, and this will be my fourth, and I told you to do it anyway, right? Remember that you are always that close, right? Do not give up on yourself. You are always that close. And for you who aren't watching the video, I'm putting my fingers very, very close together. Um, but you're always that close to finding that success, and you just need to make sure that you walk into that, right? My table is creaking this whole time. I just realized, but whatever, who cares? Just a lesson apply. Don't do hardwood tables, right? But make sure that you know, and that you don't look at it as like a failure and then like a mark on you forever, and that you were that close. So remember, always, fourth time is the charm. It might not be your fourth, it might be your fifth, your sixth, your seventh. It might just be the second time you try something. You're not supposed to be good the first time around. You have to give yourself the opportunity to suck. And if you give yourself that space, there are beautiful, beautiful lessons that you would never, ever have gotten. You can't pay for them. You can't seek them out. You can't read about them. Those beautiful lessons can only come from you being afraid, doing the thing, not doing as well as you wanted, and then not being afraid to relook at that situation. Um, you know, and even with me, right? Like I'll kind of wrap it up. Like I've read the same book like, 3, 4 times, and every time it teaches me something different. My business mentor has said the same thing 7 times, and I will still sit there like, oh shit, Vince. Whoa, what is this new information? Right. But I've heard it over and over and over. We tell our clients the same thing. We tell them about protein and all of this, and they're like, whoa, wait, that's all I had to do, right? Because you are always so close, and sometimes you need that information and those lessons over and over and over, right? Like I'm doing the same marketing course right now for the fourth time, and I'm still getting my mind blown, right? Because I'm like, oh shit, when I did this the last time, I wasn't in the position I am now, and you may just not have been ready to take on that information, right? So to wrap it all up, the most powerful thing you can do is WWLA for every one of your, throw it up with me, quote unquote, failures, right? And just make sure that you're looking at it that way. So, once again, thank you for listening to the podcast. If you like this episode or you think anybody else would benefit from it, in my little squeaky chair, feel free to share it with anyone else. I don't know if you can give us a like. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and give it a like. And outside of that, if you are looking to join a family where you can WWLA and then create something amazing with us here at the gym and, start to feel better in your body in that 2023, just go to www.iontraining.com and or send us an email and just put podcast in the subject line, and I'll hook you up with the free first week at the gym here with us. So I appreciate you all for listening in, and Marcus and his squeaky chair